Hello everyone, this is a video about HTML tags and a few of them that you probably want to know. There are a lot of HTML tags. For example, here's a list of, mostly all of them. Yeah, that's a lot. Who wants to memorize that? And honestly, there's no reason to. You can always Google it, right? So you can always just say, hey, how do I make a list, or how do I make a footer? You'll find it here and all the information you need. There are, however, a handful of ones that are pretty common and very helpful to know off the top of your head. So I'm using CodePen here. It's just a nice little tool. It's an online service where you can just play with some HTML and see the results right here without having to do the whole shell and saving files thing. So here are some I've pulled out that I think are kind of important, and we'll go over them. These are all basically typesetting tags. They're going to affect how the type looks on the page, basically. So H1, H2, all the way through H6. H stands for header or headline. And there's 6 of them because you've got, usually, say you're doing an article, you've got your main headline. You might have a subhead. Within that, you might have another head. Then you might have a sidebar that has a different style of headline. So each one of these, it kind of goes in order of priority, the most important at the top. So just to show you, header 1, header 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, pretty tiny. Yeah, so you can see that if you put something between a header 1 opening tag and closing tag, it has a specific default way of formatting it, and it's going to be bigger than that one, and it's going to be bold. And these are all things that you can take control of later, but it's still important to say, hey, this is the most important headline on the page. All right, when you're done with your headline, usually you're going to want a paragraph, right? What's an article? Why have a headline if you don't have anything to back it up? I've grabbed a little bit of text down here. I'm just going to copy and paste. Ignore the man behind the curtain. I'm going to paste that. P stands for paragraph. It's a paragraph. I'm going to paste my paragraph right there. There you go. And you can see that the default is Times New Roman black. I think it's 14 pixels, 16, 14 pixels. Yeah, I should know that. Cool. Let's say we want 2 paragraphs. Well, what if I just, go down here and I paste another one? That's not what I wanted. It flowed them both into one paragraph. And that's because HTML just doesn't care about returns. I can hit return as many times as I want. Doesn't care. Doesn't really care about spaces either. It's not going to give me more than one space. So if I go to this last, after the first word here, didn't care at all. Doesn't care. You get one space, that's it. There's ways around that we'll go over later. So if this paragraph and this paragraph are 2 separate paragraphs, then I probably need to label them as 2 separate paragraphs. So I'm going to put an ending paragraph there. And I'm going to have to start up a new one here. So since it doesn't care about returns, it doesn't really matter how you organize your code. So it's perfectly normal to do something like this, where you go to a next line for your content and you end the tag on a new line, whereas up here this kind of makes more sense. It's just more efficient. You don't take up as much space. So you do what makes sense to you. The most important thing is that it's readable for you. Okay, we've got some other things. One thing let's say you want to make a word italic. Okay, you might think, the letter I kind of makes sense for italic. Well, this is what italic actually is. It's this M here, okay? EM stands for emphasis. And I'm not going to type in here. I'm going to use it inside of a paragraph because that kind of makes more sense. M, and then closing M tag. Okay, now you can see that one word there is italicized. The reason it doesn't say italic and says emphasis is because HTML doesn't get to tell us how something looks. That's not its job. Its job is to define what the stuff is. And it's saying here, this is a word that needs to be emphasized. Okay? The default style is to make it italic, but you're the designer. You could decide what that is. You can say, I don't want it to be italic. I'm just going to change the color or the size, or I'm going to make it, all uppercase. You can do whatever you want with that. It doesn't get to tell you. It's just saying, I don't care what you do, just make sure you emphasize it in some way. And the same is true for bold. We're not going to use a B for bold. What we want to say is, hey, this word needs to come out strong. Isn't that what bold does? So the tag for bold is strong. And again, bold doesn't have to be bold. It can be anything you want. So there you go. Now, I don't know if you noticed what happened. There's the strong. When I was typing, before I did, you don't have to do that. Hold on. Before I finished the closing tag, everything turned strong. That's because there's no closing tag. So as soon as you open a tag, the browser is going to think everything after that is strong, everything is strong, everything is strong, until you actually close it. Again, they're just not that smart in the intuitive sense. Okay, so that is M, and that is strong. Emphasis and strong. Block quote, this is, think back to, papers you've written in school when you need to quote a longer passage instead of putting in quotation marks, right? You take the whole paragraph out and you indent it and you do all that kind of stuff. So block quote does that for you. And it can also be used if you're laying out, let's say, a magazine article and you do a pull quote kind of thing where you take an interesting quote from someone and you feature it on the side, big and colorful or something like that. So it's a good one to use to separate, to say, hey, this one right here, you're going to make that look a little different because it's not within the normal flow of the story. Okay, and that is block quote. And then down here, okay, this one's a little unfinished here. OL, and it's cousin UL. Okay, the OL and UL are lists. These aren't finished yet. You can see there's some space in there. I'll talk about lists a little bit more in the video on nesting, but I'm going to introduce it here. OL stands for ordered list, meaning a list that has an order, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It actually puts the numbers in there for you. UL stands for unordered list, so there's no particular order, just bullet points. Okay, so you can't just start say this is my grocery list here. I want ice cream, and I want gummy bears, and I want just one gummy bear, I guess. I want kale. Okay, let's scroll down here. Let me just make some of this disappear real fast. Okay. Ignore the fancy thing I just did. I'll explain it someday, I swear. Okay, so ice cream, gummy bear, kale. Yeah, doesn't look like a list to me, does it? That's because we haven't actually defined, you may remember, it doesn't care about line breaks. We haven't actually defined each item on the list. Remember, we got to define everything. So in order to do that, we have to wrap it in a tag called an LI, which means list item. And automatically, you see that? Number 1 pops up in list item. Boom. And then it pops it down. Let's make another list item. One, two, and okay. In the order of importance, although I might have actually put gummy bear at the top, but whatever. And then an unordered list would be something like, I don't know, your bucket list. China. Go to China someday. I want to, I don't know, geez. I'm blanking. I don't have a bucket. Oh, Tokyo. I'm gonna go to Tokyo. Okay. You just started. Okay, India. Sure. Let's go to India. This isn't in any particular order. It's just bullet points. So again, these are default formatting. And then you can go in and control. If you don't want circles for the bullets, you can have other things. You can get rid of them completely. You can use Roman numerals instead of numbers. All that stuff is available to you. Once you have defined the HTML, then you get to go in and control the styles, which we'll go over in CSS. So, okay, so there. Definitely not all the styles that exist, but a few helpful ones that just kind of might want to keep on the top of your head every now and then. All right, let's keep learning. See you in class.